What's up, good people all across the world? This is the Dripping in Black podcast. I am your host, David V. Lewis. Per usual, we have another fantastic guest, and we'll get into a lot of topics. Today's guest is Quan Neloms. Quan, say hello to the world.
Hello, world. This is Quan Neloms. Glad to be on the podcast, David. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. All right. So, Quan, we're going to get into quite a few topics, but I like to begin with you're an educator. Mm-hmm. You got to start in education. Tell the world how that start came about.
Man, so, I never really thought about being an educator prior to my freshman year in college. I had the opportunity to volunteer at a local public middle school in Detroit in the Brightmoor community. And so, I just saw, so when I came in, I was allowed to be like a behavior interventionist. So what that simply meant was that the young men in school, the middle schoolers who were, getting in trouble, they would actually send them to me, and we had an opportunity to kind of talk about, actions and make goals and really establish a relationship with the young men. So that school serviced the Smith housing projects. And so I had an office at the school, and I had an office at a church that was right next to Smith housing projects. So I saw the kids at home when they, when they were coming home, and I saw them at the school as well. That church where my office was at, they had a phenomenal relationship with the school. They adopted the school. And so, they had, the relationship was so complete that when the principal was absent, the youth pastor at the church at times would become an acting principal and things like that. So with that being said, man, they provided so much for the school, this church, the school, the community, parents. They work together, and it just blessed me to be able to see just what, as an 18-year-old, I'm looking at this and like, man, this is something I've never experienced in the school, just to see how all these interworking parts work together for the success of students. And so just being able to see that, again, not only at school, but in the community as well. The youth pastor asked me, have I ever thought about being an educator? And I was like, I never thought about it, but because of what I'm experiencing, I know that, what I thought education was, or what I thought being an educator was, is something totally different than what I'm seeing right now. And so based on what I saw, the relationship, I ended up starting a after-school mentoring program for those same students that I was working with during the day. And so middle school boys, we met at the school. And then during the summer, I ran programs out of the church for the Smith Housing Project, those same boys. And so being able to see them in all those different, aspects, made that mentorship, program that I was, just trying to do at the school, it made it more complete. And, I was thoroughly invested in it. I switched my major to education. The guy who I did the mentorship program out of his classroom, he ended up becoming my mentor teacher. So when I, went through this college education, and it was time for student teaching, I was able to do my student teaching at VTOL with the same guy, Mr. Brownlee. He taught me the ropes as a black man, in the classroom, much respect in the school. He did, above beyond what he, his call was, his job was, and, got a chance to see how a man interacts as an educator and, doing a phenomenal job. So I was able to see it. I was able to learn from him. And not only was he my mentor teacher, he became a friend. And, that mentorship, that friendship has, from my first years in teaching all the way up until now, we still compare notes. He's still teaching me things, and and that's something that definitely helped me to stay in the profession. But, you know, my road to education started off as a volunteer, and
Yeah.
just seeing the impact that that was being had, you know, in that school, you know, I wanted more of it, you know, and everything that I've done as a teacher since that time has been from that blueprint of what I experienced at Peter V taught 20 years ago. So,
Wow. Okay,
mhm.
cool. So I want to go back a little bit because
Okay.
we have a podcast that's going across the globe. So
Okay.
give them a little background as to where we are on the map.
All right, yo, we in
And
Motown, Detroit,
yeah,
Detroit City. You know what I'm saying? I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I came out of Mumford High School, which is in Detroit, Michigan. If you ever watched Beverly Hills Cops, you know Mumford High School was the police headquarters in the in the school, and you see that Eddie Murphy had on the Mumford High School phys ed shirt
yes, indeed.
in the movie. You know, ended up going to Wayne State University, which is also in Detroit. Graduated from Wayne State, bachelor's and master's, and so yep, this is where we are.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
no problem.
And so, is it safe to say that mentoring, you have a passion for the role of mentoring in
Yeah,
education?
yeah,
Yes. Talk a
you
little
know,
bit about that passion for that.
yeah,
Why is
yeah,
that
man.
so important?
So speaking of being in Detroit, man, Detroit. When people say Detroit raised me, it's a popular shirt around that says Detroit raised me. I mean, it's the
Uh,
truth for me. I'm the product of a program known as Project Adapt, and Project Adapt. I started when I was maybe 15 years old, and
mm,
so it was a program that pretty much met 3 times a week after school. And it serviced children from all around Detroit, from the east side. You know, we met out at the North Activity Center. So the kids from the east side would get on a bus and come. A resident youth council, they would come to the west side. I stayed on the west side, so I would, jump the gate from Mumford to come over to the program and things like that. But what was interesting about that is that there was a group. I mean, you know how we have like in the NBA these all-star teams where you have like all 5 starters are all-stars in their own right. You know,
yeah.
so we had an all-star group of adults who ran this program.
Wow.
And so, they all still, doing their things. Miss Rush, Mama Rush, she's since passed away, but a lot of the other mentors are still, still around. Mr. Bellinger. So what ended up happening was is that they poured so much into us. In fact, Miss Rush, she had this terminology. She had this phrase. She said that, the goal of it's called Project Adapt. The goal of Project Adapt, Adapt stood for awareness, development, achievement, and pride through teamwork. And so her phrase that she would say often was that we have to move from being ghetto to global. And we definitely was some ghetto kids, man. It wasn't an elite program, We were some ghetto kids, man. And and what ended up happening is that, first of all, the sacrifice that I mean, let me just tell you a little bit about it, man. We would meet three times a week,
Mm,
Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And you may ask yourself, these young ghetto kids, teenagers, coming to the North Activity Center 3 times a week, what was the draw? And so the draw initially was that we went on trips. I mean, they took us up out of Detroit often. And so by the time I was 17, I had been all over the Midwest, all over the South, all over the East Coast. We would do the Black College tours, and
mm,
they paid us to go on these Black College tours. And so
wow.
with the money that they gave us, we we would stop at a Black bookstore, and they would say, look, we gave you money to go on this trip, so we want you to spend a portion of that money to buy a book from this Black owned bookstore. And that's how I started collecting books and making my own library and things like that. But everything they did was so intentional on helping us to be globally minded. And
Mm,
so what ended up happening, the draw for us then was you had to be able to in order to go on these trips, you had to be present a certain amount of times. So that was the initial draw. Like, you want to go on these trips.
Yeah.
And, not only were there trips, on the college tour, that was like the main one in April, but I mean, there were also little trips. We go to Black Man Think Tank in Cincinnati every year. We would go to field trips around the city as well. And so, man, they gave us all kind of experiences. And some of the experiences that I didn't like, we would go to operas and we would go to dinner theater and stuff like that. But what they were doing, they were showing us different cultural aspects. And then, like, with the dinner theater, it was like, this is how you act when you're in this type of situation. So, how do you eat? How do you dress? How do you act? And so, they were giving us all these cultural experiences just so that we would have a more global mindset. And so, to see a group of people, a group of mentors, I mean, do this. I mean, they had jobs in their own right, and they would meet after work. They did this after work,
Right.
And so, so the draw was to go on these trips, but what made us stay was the love and the sacrifice that these adults showed us, man. I mean, just raising the money, just seeing them taking time out of there, and then just the lessons we learned. I mean, they taught us so much about eating, about health, about money, about Black community, Black history. I mean, we learned so much. It literally helped to change the trajectory of my own life. And so the reason why mentorship is so important to me is because I benefit, just from telling you that brief story, I benefited tremendously from mentorship. That's the first thing. And secondly, one of the things about ADAPT is that you knew when you were a part of it, everybody who went through that program in some type of way gives back to their community because we were given so much. I mean, I already knew, whether it was teaching or something, part of the reason I ended up volunteering at this school is because I knew that I had to give back,
Okay.
And so, I understood that for me, I had to give back because what was given to me through Project Adapt. In education, I've always, ever since I hit the ground, like with the mentorship program that I started at VTOR, it was called Harambe. I mimicked everything I learned in Project Adapt, like, utilized the field trips, you know what I'm saying? The lessons we learned, things like that, everything that, again, I tried to mimic, not only with these mentorship programs at school, but also in my own, my own classroom, the things that I would try to do. I was like, I got to do some of those same tenets that I learned from Project Adapt. So for me, that's why mentorship is important, because it changes not only the person that's doing the mentoring, but it also changes the families of the children themselves, and for me, before I got involved in Project Adapt, I was on the outside looking in. I'm like, what they doing? I want some of that. And so that was, so it also helps to attract other young people to, to what's going on, something positive that's going on. And so for me, it's something that every adult, I think, it has to be a lifestyle for us, because, what I saw, it was a lifestyle for these people that mentored me. It was their lifestyle. It was something that they knew that, hey, they were going to sacrifice, they were going to mentor, they were going to show love to young people. And so I believe that it's every adult's duty who's capable to be a part of the lives of young people in a positive way. It may look different from individual to individual, but that has to be something that we're doing, and it's on the forefront of our minds.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for that trip down memory lane.
Indeed.
You said quite a bit there, so I want to address a little bit of some of what you said. One of the things that I think is so valuable for young people is exposure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times our kids are limited in their exposure. And really one of the core tenets for this podcast is to provide exposure to a different variety of what people deem to be Black. Black has a wide variety of excellence that doesn't get broadcasted enough. So that was the purpose of the podcast. But just talk about the impact of exposing kids to different things outside of their general environment, and how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, as Ms. Rush said, moving from ghetto to global, man, it broadens your outlook on life. You know, if you never see something, you don't know that you can aspire to do it.
Yeah.
So for instance, going to college, you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, there's research that shows that having someone that's in college already or being on a college campus, as a young person, it broadens your horizons that you may aspire to do that. You know what I'm saying? Also, just that I mean, things don't. I always with my own kids, I just say, I don't want the first time you experience something um, to be in a situation where you don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? So I want you want young people to be able to experience as much as possible, and not even so it can be like, oh, I want to do that. Just be like, yo, I've done that, or
Yeah.
I know what that's about.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not, I'm not ignorant to the ways of the world or the ways of this culture, the ways of that culture. So yeah, I think that's most important. It broadens your horizon and shows you that the world is bigger than your community, is bigger than your city, your block. So I never, for the longest, living in Detroit, I thought that that Black people were abundant in every city. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
wasn't until I traveled out of the city, I realized, like, wow, that's not, Detroit is a special place because there's
Yeah.
not like lots of Black people everywhere, or like, like, so for instance, in Detroit, I had the opportunity to see, Black mayor, Black school
Yeah.
board, Black superintendent of schools. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and I thought that was just normal, but that's not the case outside the city. And you never know, you know, outside of seeing the world, you appreciate what you have more when you see what goes on globally as well. So it made me appreciate, Detroit even more when I saw that. Oh, Detroit is special because not every other city has, what we have. So I think it goes two ways. It brought when you are exposed, it makes you know what's out there, what you can aspire to do. But it also, seeing what goes on outside of your city makes you see the nuances and what makes your city or your community or your hood or your family special.
Yeah, excellent point, man.
Yeah.
Excellent point. So that exposure has a dual effect because you're
Mm-hmm.
exposing them to things that maybe they couldn't even think of, and now they can see it, but then
Mm-hmm.
also give them a greater appreciation for the things that they have,
Yeah.
within their general vicinity. Now,
Yeah.
and to me, that's a perfect segue to the mentoring that you're doing. So you
Mm-hmm.
have a program. I'm going to let you tell the world what the program is, and you have a push behind it, and it's driven by your passion for mentorship. So tell the world about the program and what it's all about.
Okay. You talking about in demand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I am in demand. So as you know, when it comes to Black men in education, as educators, Black men are like 2% of the population. Of course, representation matters, and we know that when Black kids, especially Black young men, when they have a teacher that looks like them, um, uh, culturally represents them, they tend to do better in school, whether it's um, combating absenteeism, where they are in school more.
Yeah.
They tend to feel more appreciated in school. They tend to finish school, graduate more so when they have Black or Black teachers that represents them culturally as well. So um, it's been a passion of mine to help to raise those numbers of Black men involved in education. So the way that it started, man, I was actually doing a presentation for a conference, and the title of the presentation was "Engaging Black Men Across School and Community." Right, and so I've had some success at the schools I've been a part of to get Black men to be involved at the school. And just presented about it, and there was a young lady in the audience. After we got done, she was like, that man, this is great, sounds good, but where are these men, right? This was her question, point
Yeah.
blank. And I was like, wow. I couldn't give her a satisfactory answer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I never want to be in that position again. So In Demand started off as it's really like a database, man, where men who are interested in being mentors, volunteers, or educators, within the city of Detroit, they can let it be known. They can sign up, take a quick survey. We definitely vet them. But this database would be utilized so next time somebody say, hey, we need Black men to do what, where they at, we got a database of men that can be shared. Like here are men who are ready and willing to be volunteers, to be mentors, or who are interested in being educators, or who are already educators and looking to come to Detroit to work. And so that's how it started.
Okay.
And of course, anytime you're doing a call to action, you got to get the call out there. And so, which may be another podcast. I got a background in hip hop. There's a lot of educators that either have a background in hip hop or used to be artists themselves. I think about like some of the more well known artists. Like I think is a guy named D Smoke. He's out of LA, but he won some competition, but he just came out with an album. I think he down with Kendrick and them. He did he walked in with he did the ring song, entrance song for what's his name? Deontay Wilder when he fought Tyson Fury, whatever. But and he's an educator. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a Spanish teacher out in LA.
I didn't know that. I know about D Smoke, but I didn't know he was an educator. So
yeah. There's it was called Rhythm and Flow. Yeah, he won the Rhythm and Flow on Netflix, and so you can see him. There's another dude out of Cali. I forget his name right now, but he's an educator. Some of the ones that we knew, like it's slipping me now, man. But some of the guys who, like, all right, for Jizza from Wu Tang, right? He's involved in education. I think he does some STEM classes and things like that at the college level. There was a guy, A.D. Carson. I forget. I think he's out of, I want to say Alabama, but he did his dissertation. His dissertation was a hip hop album. He made an album for his dissertation, and he became a doctor because of it. But there's so many cross sections between hip hop and education, and so. Growing up in the 90s myself, I was definitely thoroughly involved in the hip hop scene in Detroit. One of the big things was the cipher, right? And so a cipher was simply, for the people who watch and who don't know, was simply where you had people who were talented in rapping or dancing, whatever. They would, you would get in a circle, sometimes a full circle or a semicircle, and they would display, they would rap. But I used to like to go to the hip hop shop on 7 Mile. St. Andrews Hall, you had these open mics where Cypher would end up happening. And so one of the good things about the Cypher is that, you would have people involved displaying talent, but they would call out people in the audience as well. You know what I'm saying? They call you out and you gotta step up, right?
Yeah.
Show and prove, right? And so what we decided to do to take it back to that essence of the Cypher, a lot of some of the educators I knew who were able to rap, we just put that message in a hip hop song. You know what I'm saying? And so our first song was In Demand. That was called. We put that call out to Black men, saying like, hey, Black men are involved in education. We need more. We need you. And we put it out there, put a little blurb at the end saying this is how you can sign up. And unbeknownst to us at the time, man, it was popular. People shared it. people were inspired, man. And I think that's the thing. Like, when we talk about exposure, to be able to, first of all, to see. I mean, in the video itself, we did it like a cipher, a BET cipher, so we black and white. We had as many black male educators that I could get inside of one room. You know what I'm saying? It was just a tremendous show of power. And I think that when people saw it, it was like, yo, I want to be down, And so, and a lot of the messages I got from that was like that. Yo, we want to be down. How can we be down? And so, so that was just one way to kind of put the message out there. But also just, we did we do a lot of other things. COVID kind of had things stand still for a minute, but I mean, we were doing not the college tours, the high school tours, where we kind of really brought this message to young men, because one of the things that I always felt was interesting is that as a black man, I was surrounded by educators my whole life being in school, but you never are really asked, like, hey, you ever thought about being, it wasn't until I was a freshman in college where somebody asked me, you ever thought about being a teacher? Never heard it growing up, never crossed my mind. Yeah. But, so really putting that message out to young black men while they still in high school, like, yo, education is a way, as we see right now, people are, they got this spirit that they want to protest, they want to change things. Say, listen, one of the biggest ways that you can be a revolutionary is to be in the lives of young people. One way you can do that is being an educator. And the reason I say it's one way is because I already know, everybody's not going to want to be a teacher, right. But every black man can be involved. That's why in demand, the tagline is teach, mentor, volunteer. If you want to be a teacher, we got ways to connect you where you can, become an educator. If you want to be a mentor, we got you covered on that. If you want to be a volunteer, we got you covered. But the thing is that if you're a black man, you can do something, whether it's, again, mentoring, volunteering, or teaching. And so volunteer doesn't necessarily mean like, it can be that, lockers need to be painted. We need some volunteers, you know what I'm saying? Or mentors are a little more intimate, where you have, one-on-one or in a group setting. But there's a huge call for black men to be mentors in the city as well. But I firmly believe that I was I'm a school counselor now. It's my second year as a school counselor. I spent 15 years as a history teacher. And one of the things that I've learned from history is that, there are certain cultures where, at given times in civilization where men were expected to serve a certain amount of time in the military. That was just your due diligence as a man in that community, that you had to serve in the military. So I believe that that's the same thing with us. Like, our due diligence as men in this community is that we have to serve our young people in some aspect or fashion, form of fashion. And, that's like our rites of passage. You can't say that you fully embrace your manhood if you're not serving the next generation, And so I believe that, In Demand can hopefully help men, first of all, know that there is a need, that you are needed as a black man.
Yeah.
And secondly, this is how we can connect you to those opportunities to serve. And so that's just the essence of, what In Demand is. And so, that's what it is, man.
Yeah, it's such a powerful movement, and I want to go beyond movement. I like when LeBron said Black Lives Matter is not a movement, it's a lifestyle. It was simple, but it was so crystal clear to me. Like, yeah, we always talk about movements, but really, Black Lives Mattering should not be a movement. It should be the way people think, the way people exist, And so when we think about the mentoring and the In Demand, it's got to be a lifestyle, right? It has to become a lifestyle for our community. Like you said, a rites of passage into manhood. And your program, like you said, outlines how to become an educator, how to become a mentor, how to become a volunteer. And so you kind of thought about in a well-rounded way of how to get Black men involved. So the question, I got a couple of questions, but the question I want to ask you is, to this point, how would you say how successful it's been? Like, let's do a scale of 1 to 10. If 10 was the ultimate success, what number would you place on it? and then explain why you gave me that number.
Man, I would say that I would give us. I mean, I think there's different categories that we can do it in, but I would say overall, I would say we're probably at a 5. And the reason why I would say it's a 5, Scott, I think that we had to switch up speeds with once the pandemic hit. You know, we had to figure out other ways to kind of do things. You know, but one of the things that we did learn during the pandemic is that yo, we're still needed. You know what I'm saying? Like there's still things for us to do. But the reason I would say it's a 5 is because personally, I don't want to feel like that we made a successful showing, because I think once you start delving into we were successful, that you kind of pull back a little bit. And like LeBron said, it's a lifestyle. It's like, so lifestyle doesn't stop until you die. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's the thing with us. Like I look at In Demand as being a lifestyle. That call to action is being a lifestyle for men to get out and mentor and things like that. So with that being said, I mean, we were able to get nearly 200 men to sign up, man.
Yeah.
You know, and from those 200 men, we were able to find placements where they can be volunteers, mentors, and we were able to, put educators, those who were interested in education, and those who were already educators who was looking to come to Detroit. So we were able to cover all those bases, man. As we get further into analyzing and how successful as we handed these men off and their information to these different organizations and groups that need Black men. Once we get into that phase where we are examining and analyzing the impact, we'll be able to say, okay, this is what the overall impact was. But for the initial goal, we've been able to really, get Black men involved. That's the first thing. The second thing is that getting that message out, man, continuously beating that message where it's like, hey, and I think that's one of the big things is that, like I said, like I didn't know that education was even a possibility for me until I became a freshman in college, So really putting that message out, like, Black men, you are needed. I don't think we hear that enough. You know what I'm saying? We hear other things. Black men, you are being ostracized. You're being killed in the streets. Black man, we hear all those messages, but we never hear, Black man, you are needed, and you can be a tremendous change in the lives of young people. You know what I'm saying? We don't hear that message enough. So I'm thoroughly committed to putting that message out as much as I can, how I can. Me and the team of In Demand, God has really blessed us with opportunities that we wasn't even looking for, and definitely continuously put that message out of Black men being needed. So I would give us a halfway point, like as far as success, because I definitely don't want to stop doing the work, and I definitely want to stop doing the work, and I don't want to feel like it's time to stop and pat ourselves on the back. I want to definitely continue that work.
Yeah. So I think it's a great work. I wonder because one of the things I know, I'm an educator as well. People that's been following the podcast know that. And one of the things that I notice is, up front, I see the lack of males in the field. And in my building in particular, I'm the only Black male teacher. So how can a school that's maybe looking for a Black male reach you all and tap into that database, be it for a teacher or for other roles, mentors, and volunteering?
Oh yeah, so you can go to the website imindemand.com. I mean, there's a tab there where you can contact us. The email is info@imindemand.com. And I get messages all the time with like, hey, do you have is there anybody in the In Demand network that whatever, and they put whatever they need. And I'm very I'll send the database to whoever needs it. And so usually I send the database to organizations, but if there's a particular ask, just with the, I'll send the ask to the network of men, and the men that respond, themselves. But the fact that we do have a network that are willing and able to kind of fulfill those different needs. So
yeah. So I'm excited, man. This is one of the reasons why we created this podcast, is to make those connections. You're doing excellent work for the Black community. The Black community is needed. This is an opportunity for people that need Black males in their building to reach out to this young man, Quan Neloms, through his I Am in Demand organization. So I'm hoping we're able to connect those two groups in a greater way. So I got one major question, and then I'm going to ask you to give us your social media and all that one more time. But if you could, you have one wish to make I Am in Demand more than what it is now, what would that wish be? So this is your platform. What is it that you need to take it to the next level?
Oh man, what do I need to take it to the next level? So as like how teachers do, man, this is something that I'm doing along with actually teaching and doing other things as well. So I'm multitasking this thing out. So this is just one thing that I'm involved in out of many. So I would say just to have more people who can kind of work this thing, man. I never meant for it. I mean, I do have a great network of people, you know what I'm saying? But, if anybody got expertise in this type of thing, like I say, we just winging it, but, but we do have a focus, so, but definitely to have people who are good at marketing, putting messages out, especially through social media, only reason I opened up my social media backup, because I was off of it, was to kind of promote things like this. And so, so, people who can do that type of thing, but just more talented people to be involved at a leadership level within In Demand.
So you need a call out for people to volunteer or come in and work for the I Am
indeed.
organization. Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. So we always close out the podcast with I'm hesitating, but I'll explain after the podcast. Just go with me.
Okay.
We always finish the podcast out with this question: have you ever been on a magazine cover?
Been on a magazine cover. Magazine cover? No, I don't think I have, man.
Okay. Well, you are on the magazine cover of the Dripping in Black magazine, and you're looking at it right now.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So we will get that cover to you. We do that for each and every one of our guests. So that's
all right. Well,
like a parting gift for you.
I appreciate that.
Yep. So one last thing, give out your social media information one more time for the.
All right. You can personally, my Quan Neloms at Quan Neloms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, In Demand 313, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. Follow us, we follow back.
Okay. All right. Again, I'd like to thank you for coming on, Quan Neloms, and we look forward to seeing how things work out in the future, maybe having you back on.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks again to Quan Neloms. Great conversation on some very important topics, the importance of black males getting involved in education. It's close to my heart, as I spoke about in the podcast. Major issue with just 2% of teachers being black males, and that role needs to be filled. But we have reached the point in the podcast where we go to the last drip. The last drip is the last opportunity to squeeze in black excellence into that episode. And so thinking about Quan's quest got me to do a little research. And I was researching around the concept of mentorship and things of that nature. And I landed on something I found very interesting. Some of you may have heard of this before, but it was news to me, so I thought it worth sharing on my podcast. So it's something by the name of Camp Atwater. And so I started reading about it, and I was like, wow. So this camp was founded in 1921. It was located in North Brookfield, Massachusetts, founded by the late Reverend Dr. William N. DeBerry. And he created this camp during a time where you had segregation in the South, you had blacks migrating to the North, and wherever we went, especially our youth, we couldn't escape the time in which you had either covert or overt racism being faced by youth at a very young age, where they probably shouldn't have been dealing with that, and then the racial segregation that existed in this country. And so William DeBerry was motivated to create a safe place for the African American youth, and so he came up with this concept of Camp Atwater. And with a lot of help, a lot of donations, he was able to make that dream come to fruition. So the name gets changed to Atwater. Is named in honor of Dr. David Fisher Atwater, whose daughter donated like 25 grand in 1926 to help develop the camp. Now it's one of the oldest camps of its kind in this country, and it's been serving African American youth for over 98 years. It has a waterfront property that includes 75 acres of land, 40 buildings, and it also has a 3-acre island. It's currently now owned by the Urban League of Springfield, but it can house like up to 160 campers at any given time, house, feed, and service them at the same time. Campers come and staff come from all around the United States, and some even come from overseas. At the camp, they engage in things like history, African culture, African American culture, arts, craft, fishing, archery, and many more activities. And so as we talked about in the episode, just that exposure for the African American youth to things that are out there goes a long way in shaping the development of our youth. So think about Quan's story and how his experience getting outside of his own surroundings in Detroit and getting to see things all across the world shaped him into being the person that he is. Well, Camp Atwater is doing that for lots and lots of African American youth, and has been doing it for 98 years. So shout out to Camp Atwater, and we'll have to leave it there. I'm going to give thanks to face2faceafrica.com. That's the number 2, face2faceafrica.com. Also campatwater.org and ulspringfield.org for the knowledge. All right. So until next time, be good, be good, be good. It is a choice.